As Congress backs the Biden administration's crackdown on Russia, it's also doing other work, like the January 6th committee making a new court filing accusing Trump of election crimes, like knowingly perpetuating a fraud. That comes amidst new revelations about what Trump advisors were doing behind the scenes as he gave that infamous January 6th speech. Take this new, never-before-seen footage of Trump's longest-serving advisor, Roger Stone, a convicted felon pardoned by Trump. It's from a new documentary first released by the Washington Post, and it shows Stone, a longtime political communications and propaganda operative, both in the moments when he was trying to control events that fateful day, like here working the phones, and in moments where he lost control and went into emergency mode.
All right, well, we're going to start pulling our stuff together.
May God bless America.
All right, very good.
May God protect our troops.
Let's pack. We're out of here.
And all those folks in the county.
They take me as soon as possible. They want to get out of town.
Stone actually spent that early January period working with, talking to far-right leaders involved in the insurrection. Reporters have found that and documented it. In fact, on the eve of the insurrection, he was with an oath keeper who has since pleaded guilty to seditious conspiracy, shown in the photo. I repeat that because with everything going on in the world, you may not have heard, they just pled guilty to seditious conspiracy.
Roger Stone might finally be forced to cooperate with the January 6th investigation, something he's somehow managed to avoid doing up to this point. I'm Yasmin Khan with Rebel HQ, and Roger Stone has made a name for himself by being, among other things, notoriously uncooperative and unremorseful. The Daily Beast reports that in an effort to obtain financial records related to the January 6th insurrection, the feds are getting creative. Stone and his wife are already in the middle of an existing lawsuit regarding allegations of tax evasion, so the feds have teamed up with those prosecutors to obtain financial documents that the Stones are still reluctant to hand over. These documents are expected to reveal sources of income and donations made relative to the insurrection, but there might be even more there than just that. Stone's finances are described as being spider-like. For instance, Stone is said to have received hefty bribes from people seeking presidential pardons from Donald Trump through Stone's lobbying on their behalf, and he's even accepted payments in the form of cryptocurrency. He's crowdsourced his legal defense expenses, and he's accepted money through his Stop the Steal nonprofit organization. Tax evasion abounds in all of these money-making ventures, and still, Roger Stone remains a free man.
This morning, in fulfillment of a federal subpoena, I did my civic duty and I responded as required by law. I did invoke my Fifth Amendment rights to every question, not because I have done anything wrong, but because I am fully aware of the House Democrats' long history of fabricating perjury charges on the basis of comments that are innocuous, immaterial, or irrelevant.
Stone and his attorney have refused to hand over any documents to the investigative committee so far, which is kind of ballsy. His attorney says they don't need to turn anything over to the DOJ, probably because they already have everything that they need. Now, according to the DOJ, that isn't a good enough reason to withhold documents that they're requesting for an investigation. Stone's legal defense still has a few avenues to pursue in terms of getting out of their pickle, but Martin Scheel, a former IRS agent who specialized in criminal investigations, sort of agrees with Stone's attorney. Sort of. Scheel told the Daily Beast, quote, "I suspect that the feds have come across some inconsistency between what they have derived from the accountants and what Stone is representing, and they're trying their hardest to pin it down before going to court and possibly having something blow up in their face." According to Scheel, what the federal investigators are after is the essence of intent. In other words, they're hoping to prove that Stone is not only reluctant to part with financial records, but also that he's made efforts to conceal records. This concealment could support the case that he is, in fact, hiding something. Now, it's been frustrating, to say the least, to see bad people get away with doing bad things, but in the case of certain players like Roger Stone, it's been especially frustrating to see these people sidestep laws, disrespect legal and constitutional authority, fearlessly ignore subpoenas, and confidently reject any accountability for their actions. Their arrogance is upsetting, but what's even more upsetting is that the laws and protocols we have in place have not been enforced the way they seemingly should have been. It's often less a matter of what's right or wrong, what's procedure and what's law, and more often a matter of what's politically feasible. It is reassuring, however, that the DOJ is working on something. One of the biggest complaints lobbed against the DOJ and Merrick Garland since Biden took office is that they're not doing anything to prosecute all of these people who contributed to the plethora of illegalities that we saw during the Trump era, not to mention everyone that was involved in the Stop the Steal rally and subsequent Capitol insurrection. Now, personally, I always figured that they were doing things behind the scenes and just not publicizing their progress at every step of the way, or maybe I just had to tell myself that for the sake of my own sanity. And honestly, if I was leading a criminal investigation, then that's how I would do it. I would build my case and present it all once it was ready, but that's just me, and I'm not a lawyer. But I didn't even tell my parents that I was going to grad school until after I had made the first tuition payment because I wanted everything good to go before I mentioned anything to them. But I'm just saying, I can be unnecessarily secretive sometimes, so maybe the lack of reporting didn't bug me as much as it did most other people. That said, though, the American people have gotten used to being disappointed. We're used to hearing about public figures and political figures breaking laws and getting away with it, to the point that hearing about crimes being committed elicits little more than like a shoulder shrug as we keep scrolling through our social media feeds. We've become hardened to bad actors, and we've lost faith in our government to protect us against criminals acting against the interests of the people. Perhaps, very tentative perhaps, things will finally start to turn around.